I sorted fellowship applications. My advisor tapped a thick folder. Cordelia, Alistair is your fiancé, right? I nodded. She shoved the file across her desk. Then why did he write a recommendation letter for Willow? I stared at the page. Alistair's sharp handwriting bled through the paper. I recognized those violent loops instantly. He put real effort into this. My advisor flipped the pages. It spans pages. I forced a smile. Yeah, he rarely commits this hard to anything. I scanned the final paragraph. Willow faces intense poverty with unyielding optimism. Funding her graduate studies abroad will entirely rewrite her destiny. I stake my personal reputation on her character. She deserves this. I snatched my phone and typed a text. You love playing savior and rewriting destinies, don't you? His reply flashed a second later. Question mark. I ignored it. Rewrite her destiny all you want, Alistair. I already erased you from mine. Alistair's mother smiled across the dining table, raising her wine glass. Alistair, once you both get to London, you have to look out for Willow. She's Cordelia's best friend, after all. Treat her right for your fiancé's sake. My fork froze against the porcelain plate. Willow was already on her feet. She held her glass with both hands, casting a timid, upward glance at him. Alistair, I really couldn't have done this without you. Editing my thesis, writing that recommendation. I wouldn't have landed this master's program offer in a million years. This toast is to you. Alistair lifted his glass. He tapped the crystal rim against hers, a sickeningly gentle smile pooling in his eyes, a softness he never directed at me. Don't mention it. They shared a lingering, private smile. I sat wedged between them, watching the crystal clink. I suddenly found the entire scene a little ridiculous. My best friend and the fiancé I'd grown up with were moving across the ocean together in exactly 1 week. And I, the girl who introduced them, was the last person to find out. I need something to drink. I shoved my chair back and headed for the kitchen. I ripped the refrigerator door open. The blast of Freon hit my flushed cheeks. I drew in a quiet breath. It was fine. They just forgot to mention it. It wasn't a massive red flag. I grabbed a bottle of juice and turned back to the dining room. Someone else was sitting in my chair. Willow leaned over my empty plate, her shoulder brushing Alistair's arm as she listened to him speak. She spotted me and scrambled to her feet, her cheeks flushing red. Cordelia, I'm so sorry. Alistair and I were just reviewing my thesis notes, and I guess I just lost track. Stay put. Alistair's fingers clamped around her wrist. He pulled her firmly back into my seat. He looked up at me, his expression perfectly calm. Cordelia, we're right in the middle of something important. You don't mind taking the opposite chair, do you? I stood frozen, the cold condensation from the juice bottle dripping onto my knuckles. Since when did my designated spot shift from right beside him to completely across the table? Alistair's mother must have sensed the suffocating tension. She forced a laugh and pulled me toward the empty seat. Speaking of grad school, Cordelia, didn't you take the GRE too? What was your score again? 328. Willow ducked her head, her voice shrinking. I couldn't afford test prep growing up. I barely scraped a 290. If Alistair hadn't spent hours tutoring me, I wouldn't have even met the baseline requirements. Alistair's gaze softened as it landed on her. You have raw talent, Willow. It's never too late to catch up. I stared at the plastic rim of my juice bottle. I suddenly felt a faint urge to laugh. Months ago, I had practically begged him. Alistair, let me apply for the London programs with you. He hadn't even bothered to look up from his phone screen. Your academic record is barely average, Cordelia. You won't get in. Besides, I'm only doing a 1-year program. Don't stress yourself out over a pipe dream. I lifted my chin and looked across the mahogany table. Their heads were angled inward, entirely sealed off in their own private orbit. They kept their voices low, occasionally sharing a laugh, acting as if there was no one else in the room. I picked up the glass and took a sip of the orange juice. It tasted bitter and tart. Heavy footsteps approached on the hardwood floor. A pair of strong arms slipped around my waist from behind. The familiar, radiating heat of his chest pressed flush against my spine. What's going on in that head of yours? Alistair's lips grazed the shell of my ear. The faint, sharp scent of whiskey ghosted across my skin. You've been in a mood all night. I didn't flinch. I didn't lean into him. You completely managed Willow's study abroad applications. Why didn't you tell me? Why would I? He scoffed lightly, his breath hot against my neck. It's not exactly headline news. He gripped my shoulders and spun me around. His hands slid down to rest on my hips, pulling me flush against him. She's your best friend, Cordelia. I only helped her out as a favor to you. You know that. I stared dead into his eyes. The moonlight spilled across his face. I had memorized every angle of those eyes over the last 20 years. Right now, I was staring at a total stranger. Did you honestly forget? I whispered, the silence stretching tight between us. I originally planned on applying too. He paused for a second, then laughed it off. Stop messing around. He dropped one hand from my waist, using the other to pinch the bridge of his nose. Her GPA isn't like yours, Cordelia. She can't compete with the other applicants. You're different. You're brilliant. You'll land on your feet anywhere. He paused. The sheer entitlement in his voice made my stomach drop. Besides, our families already agreed we're getting married the second I finish this program. You don't need a master's degree. Once you're my wife, I'm not exactly expecting you to be the breadwinner. I stared straight into his eyes, spacing out every single word. Are you actually serious? His brows snapped together. He finally caught the razor edge in my tone. But the words spilling from his mouth didn't change track. Cordelia, I never thought you'd get territorial over something like this. She needs this a hell of a lot more than you do. She has nothing. Academics are her only way out. You aren't like her. You have your family's money, you have this engagement, and you have me. He closed the distance between us. His head dipped, his voice dropping into that soft, placating register he always used to coax me. Just let her have a win for once. Can't you do that? My lips parted, but my lungs refused to push a single syllable up my throat. I pivoted on my heel to walk away. Cordelia. His arms banded around me from behind. The sharp edge of his jaw dug right into the crook of my neck. I've had too much bourbon to drive. Stay the night. I didn't make a sound. He tilted his head, his mouth grazing the sensitive skin below my ear. I'm leaving so soon. Aren't you going to miss me? I squeezed my eyes shut. I let him hold me, not bothering to pull away. A low chuckle vibrated against my spine. His arms clamped tighter around my ribs. Willow ended up staying the night too. Alistair insisted it was too late for her to take an Uber back to her neighborhood alone. Hours later, I slipped out of bed for a glass of water. The hardwood hallway was pitch black, except for a sliver of yellow light bleeding out from Alistair's bedroom. Hushed voices drifted through the cracked door. I pressed my palm against the wood and pushed it open by a fraction of an inch. Willow had her face buried in Alistair's shoulder. She choked on a sob. Alistair, someone with my background, do I even deserve to study abroad? I don't know the first thing about living over there. His hand stroked a slow, rhythmic path down her spine. His voice was devastatingly gentle. Stop overthinking. I've got you. I'm going to be right there with you. I'll help you figure it all out. Relax, okay? Have I ever broken a single promise to you? But, she sniffled, wiping at her eyes. Won't Cordelia be upset? She's your fiancé. I'm terrified she'll get the wrong idea. The rhythmic stroking stopped. He paused. Our parents forced that engagement. I stopped breathing. I never actually planned on marrying her. Taking this program abroad is just a way to ice her out for a while. When I get back, I'll break off the engagement. I'll just say she lacks ambition and we have zero common ground. My parents will back me up. Through the crack in the door, I watched the tearful panic melt off Willow's face. A heavy blush stained her cheeks as a smile tugged at her lips. I stood in the shadows, my whole body turning cold. I couldn't pinpoint the exact second I started loving Alistair. Maybe it was when I was 8. Some kid in the grade above yanked my pigtails on the playground. Alistair tackled him into the dirt, fists flying. He wiped his bloody lip, looking back at me. Anyone messes with you again, you drop my name. Maybe I was 12. A brutal fever kept me locked in my bedroom. He showed up with my missing assignments. He sat on the edge of my mattress, walking me through the algebra equations step by step. Hurry up and get better, he grumbled from the doorway. Not having you around to argue with is boring as hell. Maybe I was 15. Pinned against a brick alleyway by a group of older kids after the final bell. He swerved his bike onto the pavement and ran them off without a second thought. I rode on the back pegs of his bike all the way home. The wind was strong. I only remember the warmth of his back. Or maybe I was 18. Our family's clinking champagne glasses around a massive dining table. His fingers slid over my knee under the white tablecloth, giving my hand a firm squeeze. I looked up. He flashed me a smile. He said absolutely nothing. He said absolutely everything.